I've got to say, it's so nice about a share of film that I am a massive fan of, and for once I don't have any negative comments really towards this film. Now, this is the David Lynch directed adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune. Now, this film go down in my top 10 list. Hey, it might even be number 1. That's how much I like it. And you know how much I like to nitpick about things that aren't really worth bothering about? Well, to be honest with you, when it comes to this film, I don't like to get involved in nitpicking this film whatsoever. And as regards actors, this film is on an epic scale. It's sort of like a who's who of somebody's famous in this. You'll recognise practically everybody, people you won't even necessarily associate with the same sort of roles or genre. It's absolutely excellent, and they're so well cast. Everybody fits his persona from the book spot on, and it's superbly executed by David Lynch as the director. Now, if it has any flaws or faults, it's only because David Lynch has done it in such a way there's no exposition, no twatting around at the beginning. He expects you to have some knowledge of Frank Herbert's book, or to have at least read the book, or to be affiliated with the characters. Everything in the book is here, but it's not explained why. It just takes it for granted that you know why it's there and you understand. So David Lynch treats us like adults. Thank you. Well, for those of you who aren't so familiar with it, I'll just give you a very quick rundown of it. Essentially what it is this planet called Dune. It's a completely dry planet. There is no water on it, and the indigenous life form called the Fremen mine the planet so that the Space Guild navigators can use it to fold space. Okay, so that's essentially what it is. I've got to say again though, for the record, even though you take into account the time this film was released in 1984, the effects still look good now. You can't really start nitpicking them. And as I said, every now and again there's another actor who just pops up and you recognise, go, oh, I know what he's in. That will happen through the whole film, and I think this film spans a great deal of time. Now, there's 2 cuts of this film. Well, I've got both of them. There's the abridged one, which I think they use for purposes in the cinema. Then there's the redone one, which this is, with the edited bits replaced, thankfully. And I've got to say, whether I conflict with a lot of fans of this or not, I prefer with everything in one film. Others say it streamlined it a bit. I've got to say I prefer it this way. Also, the battle scenes are so epic. You've got to remember, when they done this film, there's no CGI guys running around here. These are all physical, real people. And it gives the film a real depth and feeling, like it means something when you're watching it, when you see people running around. They ain't just existing inside a computer, they're there, they're physical forms. I'm afraid it's an art form nowadays, which I'm afraid's been lost. I can understand for purposes of making films nowadays why they do it, but to be honest with you, give me real actors any day. These are the Harkonnens here anyway. Well, this guy is, and you know what? They kind of make me feel sick. They are so gross and depraved. I mean, Frank Herbert really wrote these characters well, and as I said, David Lynch's direction for this is absolutely superb. This film made me a fan of David Lynch's directorial style. He is a class of his own. Tarantino, eat your heart out. I'm sorry, mate. You haven't got a patch on this guy. There's a few bits in this film I found almost slightly comedic, and I'm not sure if they're meant to be, but maybe it's the way that the actors present them. I found myself actually laughing at certain scenes, and that's not a negative point. The fact is that I can still find this film a very serious masterpiece and still find aspects of it that I find, well, mildly humorous. I think just goes to show what a spectacular film it is. And I'll point out one of the little bits of it later. Yet more people popping up in this film who are famous. I know the casting director must have had her work cut out. I think it was and she had done an absolutely bang-up job. If any of you are familiar with the book and you're watching this, you'll probably appreciate what I'm trying to say. I mean, there's been many versions of Dune. There's a recent TV adaptation, I think it was 6 episodes or something. And I've seen it, and I've got to say it was excellent, even won awards, but I've got to say again, this is much better. I just don't think they've got the actors nowadays.
and we will teach you.
I'm very sorry for coming across possibly as slightly biased, but I dare say it's with a lot of things, like, you know, a Star Wars fan or a Megadeth fan or somebody who's very passionate about a particular thing. Even if there's faults there, you tend to overlook them. So I dare say there is a lot of faults with this film, none of which I'm prepared to admit, by the way. So you can post and say there are, well, I'll just ignore it because I like the film that much. And this film did make a start of Carl McLachlan. Now, he's always going to be associated with David Lynch from then on. He'll always be cast alongside. He's one of his favourite actors now, I think. A bit like Tarantino with his other actors and cronies he always has. One that springs to mind is Uma Thurman. Now, them two are going to be synonymous forever, and this goes the same for Carl McLachlan and David Lynch. And yet again, I'm not complaining. I'm just pointing out the way things work. But back to the film, I would hope or suggest that if you've never seen it, or haven't even heard of it, now's a good time to go and witness it. Now look at the battles, look at the scale they're on. They're all people, look. Not one of them is performing inside a computer. Now this is Paul's creepy little sister. She should be in The Exorcist. Good grief. And there's another chap who's going to appear at the end of this film, and I've got to say, I think he's the only actor in the film who can't bloody act. It's absolutely hilarious, because he's a singer. And if you haven't seen the film, you're about to see him, and if you have, you'll know exactly who I mean. Anyway, witness here, Paul Atreides' sister finishing off the big bad guy. Oh yeah, and when I say big, I mean big. And here's the guy I was referring to, Sting. Sting! Sting can't act. It's debatable whether he can sing, but my God, he can't act. And we're leading up to a bit which I was referring to back earlier, where I found it slightly funny. Now let's just cut. He's killed Sting, so he's dead. You know, he's got a knife through the neck. But that's not enough for Paul. Oh no. Damn. Yeah, it's that guy there. You know, to start the way that Paul's not only knifed Sting through the neck, and he's just exploded his innards, and he's got to, what, damn. And he's nonchalant. I do that all the time, mate. So yes, that's the sort of bits I found slightly comedic, but I think they're in there for a good reason. Now look, this film is excellent. It's a masterpiece, it's spectacular. The last of the epic films, not relying on CGI, relying on actors and people. Look, if you've never seen this film, do yourselves a really good favour, please, and go and see it. I mean this sincerely. As I said, out of my top 10 films, this would probably be #1. You know what, Star Wars? You got a lot to learn.